Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to New York's Divine Channel. You can have it all. And we talked about what you can have it all means last week when we recorded the show on what were we talking about? We were talking about our romantic love life. And this week we are talking about the healing parent. So I originally titled the show parenting tips. And then this morning it was coming through that the title is The Healing Parent. And probably because I definitely would qualify as one of those, having my son been born with a bunch of medical stuff and scared me to death the moment he was born. And I think that through that journey of really comparing how I was raised and how my parents parented me, and then the things that I wanted to uh, use that they had done, and then the things that I thought were big no-nos or mistakes, I shared with many of you. I did the opposite game. So today we're going to be talking about things that work, things that don't work, uh, things that we can talk about together and share tips during the interactive room. So we'll first be doing the training that I'm going to give you today for the first half an hour or so. Then we'll go into the non-recorded portion where you're in the interactive room and we can all communicate, have a conversation. I can do some free readings, healings, coaching, and so on and so forth. So you're in for a great program today. And I will tell you that I am in costume for the parenting show today, Healing Parent, because and I say this for all of you who are parents are probably laughing right now because what I did, and I was just myself going, I was rolling my eyes going, are you serious? I'm going to be showing up at this show in my pajamas without even a bra on. And I'm like, oh, of course, it's the parenting show. It's like you just show up, even if you're not dressed to show up. And so what I did, threw over a scarf over my handy dandy pajamas, and I'm here. And that's kind of what a mom does. And I don't know about dads, but I think they do something similar as well. It's like when your child needs you and if you're engaged fully in the parenting role. Now, I say that because I do know of parents and I've heard of them from my clients because I have clients from all over the world internationally and I work with deep trauma release. So, of course, just like myself, having gone through some deep trauma with my parents, I have a lot of wonderful human beings that have entrusted me now that I figured out how to heal mine, how to help them with theirs. Okay. Through the neurolinguistics programming, the NLP, the hypnosis, the divine channeling, the quantum touch and healing, the laying on of hands, the faith based healing, which that covers like 25 different modalities that I'm using under the words faith based healing. And as a result, I've heard a lot of stories. So we can't just assume that all parents are fully engaged and ready, willing, and able and wanting to be a parent. But I am going to be talking to all of you out there who do want to be fully engaged and be a parent. And that's the place I'm going to be coming from. So some of you are going to resonate with what I'm talking about because you've either done it yourself as a parent or you had a parent that was similar, or you're thinking, geez, it would have been nice if I had a parent like that. But again, remember, if you didn't have a parent like that, it's because either you are supposed to be that kind of parent, or your own rendition, of course, or you're going to be coaching others, or there is some type of divine calling that you're working in. Maybe you're a doctor, registered nurse, a counselor, and you help other parents. And you come from the perspective of what you realize children need based on what you didn't receive or that you did receive as a parent. So there's always a reason why we have the life that we have, why we have had all the different experiences. And I have come to a place in the last good chunk of years, probably the last 6 years, where I'm super grateful and thankful for everything that I have gone through. Prior to that, I will tell you, I thought I was in a shit show and I had gone through hell, both with my own parents. And then for me, my parenting journey, I say it was hell only because we had to help my son heal a whole bunch of stuff. And then you had to deal with the school systems and the medical systems and the legal systems and the HMO systems and all these systems that some of you are going, yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. So, and then just getting daily emails from the school, you know, your son farted too loud today and we didn't like it. It's like, are you kidding me now? Come on now, you have nothing better to say because you know it's going so much better than last year, so you'd have to manufacture a complaining email. You know, so even when we got them going great, there was still some weird stuff. So I imagine you all know what I'm talking about if you have any children in the school system. So today I was laughing because I was here I am, I'm going to do my parenting healing thing. I don't have any makeup on. I'm like, all right, you know what you do, you throw your lipstick, you throw your sunglasses on. If you have to go deal with the doctors or the school system, you just tell them you have an eye infection and that's why you're wearing eyeglasses. Why do I do that? Oh my God, you want to know why? I showed up without my eye makeup on and no sunglasses, and I have had people go, oh, you look sick, what's wrong with you? And they can't even pay attention to your kid anymore, just because they're used to normally seeing you look made up, and now you show up on mother mode, where you have no makeup on, but you're there and you're ready to do the job, and you may or may not be getting treated right if they've seen you made up before. Now, if you always come with no makeup, it's fine. But if they see a change, they're like, what's wrong with you? So I was demonstrating sunglasses and lipstick, a little bit of blush, you're good to go, right? And I laugh because there's been times, and they're asking me to share this with you. Some of you are receiving this for different reasons. You're healing yourself, you're healing your own mother journey, or you're getting ready for a journey because you're going to have a baby. Whatever the reason is that they have me talking about this right now. Of course, as a divine channel, I am going to give you the messages that they're asking me to. I sometimes will check 3 times and go, really, you want me to talk about this? And then they're like, really, really, really? So I do. And here it is. I remember when I ran out of the door because I got some weird text message or something, and I knew that my son wasn't in a good place or whatever. And and he was coming home, and I knew something was wrong. And I think I got an intuitive hit. Archangel Michael might have came in and said, go get your son. And I ran out to my car, didn't even have shoes on. I was barefoot, wasn't dressed the part at all. I don't think I had a bra on yet or anything, and got in the car, and I drove with my feeling, just my Reiki energy feeling, and drove exactly to where he was. Opened up the door, said, what's going on? Get in the car. And he started letting me know what had happened. He was crying, and we were able to get a conversation going and problem solve and help him get into a good place. And I just laugh because as moms, we'll just, run out of the house without our shoes on. And one day I had 2 different shoes on. They weren't even matching. And another day I remember I had 2 different slippers on. And I know before I got pregnant and had my son, I used to say, I'm never going to be like my mom and like get caught running outside with my breasts going bing, 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 because no bras on. And you just look like a total, undone woman, right? Well, the first time I ran out to the bus to run his lunch to him because he had forgot to grab it, and I could tell, oh boy, here we go. Everything's hanging out, and I'm running to the bus, and I go, I am definitely in mom mode. I am activated, and I am making sure the things happen when they happen. And so any of you who resonate with that right now and are over there laughing, going, yep, I remember when I didn't even have I had 1 shoe on and 1 shoe off, because it's like, when your kid needs you, it's just, woo, you get on the job, you're there, you show up, Supermom arrives on the scene, Wonder Woman. I like to show my little Wonder Woman action figure. Wonder Woman arrives on the scene. You might not be fully dressed, but you're here and you're ready to fight the battle if necessary and take care of whatever is happening and problem solve. Then as they start getting older, now you got to start teaching them how to do it for themselves. And that's You're weaning yourself off of parenting. It's not just weaning your child off of you, but it's you weaning yourself because you're used to staring at your phone every 2 seconds, making sure that you're there if you're needed. And then you start getting into the place of, okay, I have to instead tell my child what to do about the problem. When they say, okay, here's what's going on, I say, what do you think you should do about the problem? So we start switching over to that when they start becoming double digits, 10 years old, 11, 12, 13. As they start getting older, we start helping them figure out. So I have caught myself during those stages. My son's now 24, so that's a new stage. But back when it was like 13, 14, I was like, all right, Camille, don't just go, okay, go down to the office and tell Mrs. So-and-so this and then do this. Instead, it was, what do you think you should do about this? And then he would go, well, I think I should go down to the office and tell Mrs. So-and-so this and then do this. And then I would go, very good idea. All right, go do that and let me know how it goes. That is the moment that you start passing the baton off, because there's a few different chapters in parenting. Okay, that first really big chapter is, you're changing their diapers, you're teaching them how to walk, how to talk, how to feed themselves. And if you have a special needs kid, wow, whole nother story. Anything's possible of what you're doing. I had a lot of things going on with my son. And even if you don't have a special needs kid, you're supporting them on whatever you are supposed to be teaching them for that age of development. But again, who's to say that they're supposed to be doing a certain thing at exactly a certain age? Oh, they're supposed to be walking at 9 months old, and if they're at 12 months old, then there's something wrong. Okay, well, you know what? Sometimes this soul is just going to wait a few more months. We don't need to freak out and we go, oh, developmentally delayed, let's do a brain scan. I think because we know so much in this day and age, we go into all the medical jargon first before going to our relationship with our creator and talking to God. So I was going to name this show The Praying Parent, but I was then told, no, that might not get as many people's interest as The Healing Parent, because some people aren't into praying, or they think, oh yeah, whatever, pray, whatever. They want to know more than just praying. Okay, I agree, there is more to parenting than just praying. However, without being a praying parent, I have no idea how anybody would do it, because the moment, and I was talking about this with somebody yesterday, the moment that you give birth or adopt a child, whichever way you end up becoming a parent, the moment you become a parent, your heart is walking around outside of your body and you will never get it back. Okay. You're sharing your heart with them. And if you've got 3 or 4 kids, then your heart is running around in 3 or 4 people, because as well as I know, most of us would be willing to die for our child, right? At the same time, sometimes we want to kill them because they're driving us crazy. However, I always joke and go, if I had to walk across the planet barefoot in order to be there because that's what was needed, I'd be doing it. I'd be like, all right, let's go. And I'd be like, bring some Bactine and some tape because we're going to have to tape up the feet. I remember. And at the same time, it's then like, well, when do we not do that anymore so that they grow up to be independent and autonomous? Well, first of all, how independent should we force them to be? Is that really the right terminology? Isn't that why America is having so many problems? Because we have caused segregation and separation in our families, and we tell everybody they have to move out by the time they're 18, get their own apartment. They need to go get a roommate, prove they can live with other people. Why? They only have to live with one person someday, their wife or their husband, and their children, if they have any, or adopt any, or whatever. Okay. So that is going to be a whole different learning thing than living with roommates that are not their spouse. Okay. So, yeah, going away to college, dorming, it's awesome experience for them. If they don't go away to school and dorm, if you want to say, oh, okay, why don't you try having a roommate? But is that required? I think we should start asking ourselves these questions in this day and age, because there's a lot of countries in the world that are doing better than us here in America. Okay. And you know who they are. I don't even have to list them. Some of them aren't even considered first world countries, and their families are healthier and happier. There are countries that do not have the drug overdose problems. There are countries that do not have the suicide rates that we have. And they also don't have the birth death rates, by the way. Like you have a better chance of giving birth to a healthy, alive child in some of these other countries. If you Google, and I'm not scaring you to be an American, by the way, because you can learn how to be living in America if you are here in America. And this is a global TV show that we're doing at the Win-Win Women Network. This TV show, this recording that we're making right now, is going to go out into 195 nations worldwide. So women from all across the world in all different time zones are going to be watching this show, and they're probably going to be saying, yeah, you're right, because they have Google too, and they can see the statistics, and the data is out. And if you put in their chance of giving birth to a healthy, alive child per country, and they'll list the countries and there's the percentages. America's not at the top of the list, just so you know. And there's a reason why. It's because we have too much intervention with medical before necessary. Okay. And then there's the huge corporate America of how much money they make if you have a C-section versus what they call a natural childbirth. So a natural childbirth, they only make, well, back when I was studying this, and now I haven't read the statistics lately, but when I was researching all these things, when I was pregnant with my son, so that was 24 years ago, because he's turning 24 this year. Back then, a natural childbirth, the hospital made about $10,000, but a C-section, they made $22,000. So, and I read about how they had drugs that they give you that speeds up the contractions so that you'll have the child faster, but that actually can cause a clog when trying to give birth, for a lack of a lot of medical terms. And then you end up potentially maybe in a C-section because the drugs were making it go too fast, and the body wasn't created to go that fast. So if you would be willing to be patient, you might have been able to have a natural birth. Now, of course, it's great that we have this medical stuff for people who need it, because we also are able to save lives. We're able to save babies and save the moms if they were going to hemorrhage or whatnot and other reasons. So we have some things that other countries don't have. That's one wonderful thing, but we use it too much, and then we cause deaths for people who don't need it. So it's like finding that happy balance of only using intervention when it's necessary versus making it like the mainstream way that things are being done, kind of thing. Well, I'm not here to say, oh, our country isn't the best or blah blah blah. I'm here to say, hey, what are we doing right as parents, and what are we not doing right, and what can we do better or differently moving forward? We should learn from our mistakes, and we should improve it. So the object of the game is for us to do better than our parents did, right? And then our children, their object is for them to do better than we did. That's how evolution happens. So we try to pour into our children and teach them everything we know so that they can use that as their platform for their beginning place. And then they can take all that, run with it, and then they can add in new information, new data, and new cutting edge understandings, ideas, open-mindedness, self-awareness, conscious awareness that maybe we didn't have at their age. So if you're looking at your children right now and they understand some things at this age that you didn't know about at that age, then you're doing well. You're like, all right, great. They've got self-awareness and conscious awareness. But at the same time, we try not to pace them too fast and let them have a childhood. So again, always thinking about what's right. So for me, I understand that, and I think many of you do, that there isn't a right recipe for every single child. Every child is different. They don't come with a policy manual, but they do come with a known fact of who their inventor and creator is, which is divine, God. For me, I call it Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, Mother Mary, the Trinity, but you may call divine or God something different. And we can just respect each other for having different ways of looking at who God is or defining God. Okay. We don't even have to go into who we should pray to or talk to. Let's just talk about the fact that connecting with our creator, with divine, and then asking for divine guidance to raise our children. And then separately, but not separately, if that makes any sense, asking for each child individually. So maybe your son is a completely different type of a child than your other son or your daughter. And so what was working and is going really well for a parenting style for one of your children might not be working on the other child. And I remember talking to my mom one day because I have a sister and a brother, and my sister passed away 20 years ago, early. Most of you know that who have been following me for a little while. And if you're new to my show, then that's something to know. And I remember asking my mom when my son was really a challenge to raise, and I was going through some really hard times trying to figure out how to parent him correctly. And I had a few different doctors getting consultations and like redoing my mode of operation of what was going to work best for him, because the things that I was trying wasn't really working that well. And I said, was I super difficult to raise? I called up my mom and I said, was I like impossible? I mean, because I'm pulling my hair out here with what I should do here with my son, with your grandson here. And she goes, really? No, you were just super easy. Your sister and your brother were nearly impossible. They almost killed me. You were the easy one. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting that you should say that. And I was the firstborn too. And I remember her like beating me up every day. And I was like either bleeding or had a swollen lip. I mean, she used corporal punishment. And I'm thinking, well, that explains why my sister's dead and my brother is almost there as well. I'm like, they must have gotten the beatings 10 or 20 times harder than me, because I was treated like I was a horrible child. So I'm like, this is just really insane. And I remember my sister telling me we did not have a good childhood, Camille. I came home crying one day because I had gotten beaten up walking home from school from some person, some kid that I went to school with, or a group of kids actually. And when I cried and told mom what happened, she beat me up and yelled at me for getting beat up because I was too weak and I should have been stronger and I should have been able to handle it myself. And I did not know that was going on when we were younger. She shared that with me when we were adults, and I was horrified. So when I was going to doctor's appointments, trying to figure out how to work with my son, trying every single thing that did not include hitting or corporal punishment. And I was saying, okay, what are we going to do? I need another idea, because he wasn't behaving in school and he was doing pretty good at home, but not at school. And now I'm able to look back on this and I'm able to realize that the school was doing a lot of stuff to him. And it's coming out now in the news about how there's a lot of these human traffickers that work within the school system, and they're grooming your kids to try to basically put them in foster care and have them become the parents or kidnap them. Of course, that's not all of the school system, and I am not saying that. So anybody who says Camille said blah, 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 that all the system, no, I did not say that. So let me clarify that in case anybody watches this video to clarify what I said. However, it's in the news. So if you're living under a rock and you're not paying attention to the news, I'm going to tell you right now, it's in the news. And it's coming out how a lot of these problems, these human traffickers, are working in our school system and in our political system and in a lot of our systems. I mean, they're everywhere because they have jobs too, just like you and I. They have careers, they're making money to pay their bills. Sadly to say, their money, additional money or main money, is coming from some horrible crimes against humanity. So I started looking back at like some of these administrators and teachers and the things they had said to me, and how no one else was claiming that at the after school programs, and how at the after school program, it was one main woman who had probably a bachelor's degree who was running it. And then she had a bunch of high school kids that were her staff and maybe one college grad. And they were running the after school program. And my son behaved really well there. He was never in trouble. She said, I don't know what they're talking about. He's not a problem here. He's one of my favorites. He's easy to deal with. So I would always have her come to the special ed meetings and say, okay, this is the woman who's in charge of his after school program for 3 hours every day. You know, she has no issues with him. I'd like her to share her way of managing, because they have a schedule. It's not a free for all. They walk in the door, they have to sit down, they have to do their homework. They've got the high school kids helping them do their homework in like a study hall. When and if their homework is all the way completed, then they're allowed to go on the different stations, whether it's the computer station or the arts and crafts station or the creative, whatever. They had all different stations, I think 4 or 5 of them. And then they have a time limit, and then they have to get off of it and they have to go to a different one. Now, one of the triggers they used to say at school was that my son didn't want to get off of one thing and have to go to the other, or he didn't want to leave one class and go to the next. And he had no problem at the after school, and there was the same rules and criteria, and work had to be done first before you get to do the fun things, blah, blah, blah. So I started looking at how there were certain teachers that were being bullies to the students. And I started realizing that the years that we had to homeschool him because he had a medical problem that prevented him from being in the school building with all the chemicals cleaning supplies, he did very well. In fact, that saved his life, I believe, because suddenly he was able to show who he really is, just a good kid getting all his work done. And so I started realizing our school system is has far more issues than I had even realized. And they asked me to just talk about this because I think we should start looking at this. I know a lot of people who are homeschooling their children with these a mix of things like the online programs, and then they have different ways of doing it. So for me, I filled in during those 4 years of homeschooling that I didn't want to do, but had to do, and glad that I ended up in that situation because it turns out it was a good thing. We went to the art museum every Friday because they had an art class for all the homeschooled students, and they had incredible art supplies that were so outstanding. And they got to do these amazing arts that you wouldn't have ever found in a basic school. And then we went on Thursdays to the science museum, and then there was a science class for all the homeschooled kids for science, and they would do these amazing science projects. And then we went to the aquatic center, I think 3 to 4 times a week after the after school. He still was going to the after school program, even though he wasn't in the school building for the school stuff, because they didn't use the chemical cleaning supplies. That's what we thought the cause was. I can look back now and see that it was the super inflexible, mean. It only takes one really horrible teacher to set the whole day off wrong, where your child is crying and having a hard time, right? So I'm teaching you this for a reason, because some of you have to start thinking about, how am I educating my kids? Maybe there's a way where we can have, okay, maybe you do family sharing. Maybe you have 5 families where you all have a board of directors meeting together, and you say, okay, We're gonna on Mondays we will do math class here because I'm gonna be teaching the math because I'm qualified to do that, and I'm gonna be using this online program. On Tuesdays we're gonna be doing the ELA over in this at this one's house, and the dad is going to teach it because he's qualified for this reason. And if you have like a tight knit community, maybe that could work. Maybe it won't. Maybe you're like, well, I think I would put my kid in harm's way in people's houses that way. Well, I guess you're going to be looking at ideas on potential, because some of the stuff I see going on out there, it makes me feel like we have to talk about these ideas. And after COVID and everybody kind of figuring out how to homeschool their kids because of being on lockdown, we've learned some things. I see that a lot of people learned their kids were doing way better during the COVID time because they were able to homeschool their children themselves. I remember during COVID, you would talk to somebody and they would go, okay, well, I don't work on Tuesdays and Thursdays anymore because I do the homeschooling for our kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And my wife does it on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We've divided our schedule in half. So I found it very interesting and exciting that parents were being so resourceful. I knew other neighborhoods had the setup I just explained. And I talk about this because it's about, I know that my son and many other people's children that I work with, because I coach a lot of children too, a lot of teenagers, a lot of college students, and I coach a lot of families where I work with the entire family and help them work with all of their children. So I'm able to see how all that has to happen is there has to be one bad area where your child is getting picked on or bullied or treated bad, where it sets them off in a tailspin. And then they start maybe doing a behavior that's not acceptable. And then they're looked at like they have a special education problem, or they have a special need, or that they have ADHD or ADD or OCD or one of these things, or autism or whatnot, when really maybe they don't. Maybe they have that they're being abused. Maybe they're being verbally harassed. Maybe they're being pushed around. Because I found I actually caught, because my son had to be in a few different types of schools in order to get him through school for his medical stuff, because he did have a few medical things too. And I found that there were the good teachers and the good administrators, and he did very well when they were kind, caring, and fair, and they kept their promises with what their rewards were, their reward system. But if they weren't keeping their promises, I found that he didn't do very well because he felt like he was lied to. Or if I would go in sometimes and say, you know, how do you do, what do you do in this classroom? And the one teacher says, well, I have a system. And he had six special ed boys, and he was the special ed math teacher. And my son was one of the six boys, and he was really having problems in that class, and it was setting his whole day into a tailspin. So I went in to meet him, and, you know, as a caring parent, I wanted to have a parent teacher conference. Of course, code, find out what the hell is going on, but, you know, don't say that when you get the appointment, right? And he said, well, he has this really cool system where, and I put quotes, cool system, where he would put six Post-its on the edge of their desks in the beginning of the class. And every time they broke one of his rules, and they were like ridiculous rules, he would walk over and pull a Post-it off of their desk and then put it over on his desk. And the student who had the most Post-its at the end of the class was the winner of some stupid prize, and the rest were all humiliated because they didn't win. And then he was rude about it when he would go take the Post-it off, because my son explained how it was going. He told me. And then he had some big Friday donut and pizza party. And if you hadn't had all your Post-its, you didn't get the donuts and pizza. You sat there literally watching the other kids have the donuts and the pizza. And they were in like fourth grade or something. And I'm like, I said, in what school system did they teach you as a special ed math teacher that this would be a good behavior mod program? Because you're humiliating the children and they feel ostracized and they have to sit there and watch the other kids have pizza and donuts. I said, did you learn this in special ed training? He's like, no, I just came up with this. I said, each and every one of these kids have an IEP. It's an independent education plan. And in there, it states the behavior mod program that works for them, that we've all worked very hard to develop over many, many years of their school history. And I highly doubt in any one of their IEPs does it tell you to use this post-it removal, donut, pizza, leave them out, humiliate program. Of course, I didn't call it any of that when I talked to him. So when I talked to him, I went in as a mom. And when you go in as a mom, you just say, I just don't think this is working for my son. What else can we do? Let's find something different. And that's how you talk as a mom. Because if you go in there and you tell them you're a complete idiot and you don't know what you're doing, then you're going to be considered the problem. Now you're the parent that's the problem. And then they go, well, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. That's why he's a problem, because she's a problem. And so I was coached on that. I actually had some doctors coach me on how you're going to talk to the teachers. And thankfully, I got the coaching before I walked in the door. So I didn't make that mistake, but I found out that other parents were through the coaching. And then I became a coach years later to help parents get their children through these types of systems. And I would explain to them, even if you're a fast talker like me, because I'm on slow right now. If I'm on normal me, I'll be going talking a million miles per hour. Some of you would be able to keep up with me and some of you wouldn't want to keep up with me. So one of my doctors taught me to slow my speech down, to talk at a regular, normal pace so that the teachers think that you're a good mother. Otherwise, if you're going in there going da 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 da, spitting your top and telling them how they're doing everything wrong, they're just going to write you off as an idiot or batshit crazy, and then they're going to treat your kid even worse and try to put them in foster care and take them from you. So I thought that was perfectly insane. Wasn't quite sure that that was not an exaggeration until I started meeting parents going through it. Parents that maybe didn't have the resources that I had to go to the doctor and get the coaching. And I had to pay like $180 an hour for these consultations. Back then, like 14 years ago, I was getting these types of consultations. And that's a lot of money for a single mom, right? So that was like my entire grocery budget for 2 weeks. And I paid it because I needed help. And I went to the very best of the best to get the training, to get the support, to learn what I needed to do. And it worked. I was able to navigate him. He's doing fabulous. He's graduating this May with an honorary distinction with a bachelor's degree in business administration and finance. And when he was 9 years old, they told me he would never be able, both the educators and the doctors told me he'd never be able to go to college and he would never be able to hold down a full-time job. Well, he does have a full-time job and he also works for us as well. In addition, in the summertime, he's their favorite guy over at his full-time job that's not connected to the family business because they told me he'd only be able to work for the family business. And with his honorary distinction, he got accepted into 4 law schools and has 4 scholarships, 1 to each of them. And he's starting law school in August, all of which they said he'd never be able to do, and that he should just chalk it up with a high school degree and go work for mom's business and call it a day. And I looked at them like they were perfectly insane, because I prayed and I asked God what was going on. And God said, don't listen to that hogwash. March forward with what I showed you of who he is. Now, how did I get a vision of who he was? Because I asked for it many times until I started seeing it and hearing it and feeling it and knowing it. And if you're like, well, geez, I want to see, feel, hear, and know better, then you come to one of my psychic medium development workshops and get the training to tap in and attune your spiritual God-given gifts and abilities so that you can get exact information, so that you can get the answers to your questions about your children, and someday about your grandchildren, and about your life, about your career, about your your love life, your spouse, or maybe you're looking to bring a new one in. And if you would like help with getting the divine guidance, that's how I got through parenting. I would sit back down again in my space that I considered my special area for prayer and connection with divine. Some people call it an altar. I don't call it that, but that's the technical terminology for it. I have a few places. So if I had to call it an altar, I would tell you I have about 5 altars in my house, but I don't call it that. I just have places where I've got some things in that area that make me feel like I'm ready to do a cleansing and clearing of the space and be able to put up my boundaries and shields, ground and center, and then connect with divine and say, okay, today my topic is this. I want to get really clear about this. And then I say, whatever it is. So if it's my child, I'll say, okay, I need marching orders on what the hell to do with this kid. And that's kind of how I was coming up to the table to divine. You're his inventor. You created this kid. I don't understand how to support him right or guide him right or be the right parent for him. And then I would start writing down what I was getting. And initially I had teachers helping train me how to do this. Over the years, I've now become the teacher, and I have tons of clients all over the world that I train on how to do this. But at one point, I was the student getting the training. And of course, I'm still a student today. I still have coaches for different parts of what I'm doing next, because we all have goals of what we're doing next to go to the next level of our life. And if you don't have a coach, and if you're looking for somebody who can do mentoring or training for you, I would love to work with you. Just reach out to me, send me a text message at my phone number. If you don't have it, I'll put it in the chat line. If you're new to working, or even if you've just met me today, because I know I've had a lot of new clients that have met me on this very television show. So if you are just meeting me for the first or second time, text me at 716-603-1767. And if you want more information about what the work is that we're doing in our agency and in our academy, we do have a full-fledged business with a team. I'm not a one-woman show. I have a full team, and we just hired some new people as well. So you can go to CamilleConti.com and get some more information about the kind of work we do, so that you can tap in and attune with your gifts and abilities, and then really be able to master your divine self, and then master your life and master your business if you're an entrepreneur, master parenting if you're a parent. And if you want to meet, court, and marry your divine equal spouse, we have a program for that. If you want to do what I do for a living, we have programs for that, where you can become a certified psychic medium, reader, and healer, and then where you can become a certified divine channel NLP life coach, which means you're using the neural linguistics programming with the divine channeling and the life coaching, and you're able to run badass breakthrough sessions where you're able to take them from A to Z in 1 to 2 hours and have them feel like they're a completely new person, and they have a completely new renewed faith and hope in themselves and what to do next. And they've got their strategic plan on what they're going to focus on. And then they know that they have the training, if they want, to now start mastering their divine self. What that means is, if really all you need is to really tap in and attune to your gifts and abilities, then you're going to take our psychic medium development workshop. It's a 3-day weekend workshop. And we've got the next one coming up on April, I believe it is. Wait, I might be wrong. It's in our, we've got the next one on, yeah, April 26th, 27th, and 28th. That's the beginner workshop, the first one, and it's a prerequisite to the second one, which is the certification one. And that's happening. The first certification one is happening on April 19th, 20th, and 21st. And so if you've already taken the first one, then you are able to sign up for the certification. I have a lot of people who sign up for both at the same time. And we have them throughout the year. So we've got ones coming up. So if you want to be able to take one of those workshops, then just go on the shop page on CamilleConti.com. If you go to CamilleConti.com and you hit the tab shop, they'll all be in there. You'll see the Past Lives Discovery Workshop, and you'll see the Unleash Your Fully Empowered Self and Happy Life 12-week course. That's for people who have to drop the codependency, the people pleaser, the where you're just seeking the approval of others, and you have to heal a bunch of the wounds, the mother wound, the father wound, the rape wound, the ex-partner wound, and then you have to do the womb cleansing, clear out all the sexual energy from past lovers or predators. And that is our basically level 1 healing course and program. And there's like group support and community support in there, along with training, and you're getting new skills in your toolbox to take control of your life and master your divine self. And then you're working to practice with them and go out there and use them and come back each week to report how it's going, and then be able to do the next healing thing to help you maybe stop self-sabotaging. So we've got a full personal development side to our Academy of Divine Rich CEO. That's the name of our academy. And we have a full business development side, because once you graduate from levels 1, 2, and 3 of our Divine Channel NLP Life Coach, then you go into the Happy, Enriched, Divine Business Leadership. And it's divine business leadership for a reason, because we're not just teaching business development, and we're not doing it the mainstream way. As I have been an entrepreneur for over 37 years, I found I had a lot of different trainers, coaches, courses that I took. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work. And I started realizing that if I was working with divine and using my divine channel, my psychic medium gifts and abilities, which you all have, everyone has them. We're all psychic mediums. We're all healers. We're all empathic. We're all divine channels. It's a matter of if you want to use it and if you want to learn how to tap into it and attune it and work with it. And we are starting a new program next month where you can be on a year-long journey of practicing with your gifts and abilities, because our 3-day psychic medium development workshops are great because you get tons of training inside of that space. You get your workbook, you get your script, you totally know what you're doing, and you get to practice on each other in the breakout rooms. But then the 3 days are over. And then the same thing with the certification. You're going to learn how to do the automatic writing. You're going to learn how to do the advanced tapping in and attuning and readings. And you're going to have your what's called contract for what you have your clients sign if you're going to do them professionally and get paid. Some do the certification, but they're not doing it to get paid. They just are doing it to be really, really good with their getting their own divine guidance for their own life and maybe for their family and friends. And other people are doing it to add, in addition to helping themselves and their family, to add another modality to their items of service that they offer within their business, and to incorporate it in with what they offer to their clients and their students. But after that 3 days is over, it's over. So what we've now created is a place for you to come, so that pretty much every other week you are all in the vortex together for a 1-year journey. So it's basically 2 times a month, sometimes 3 times a month, where you are all working on each other and doing your psychic medium readings and healings on each other. And of course, then you're with your community, you're with your like-minded people, you're with people who are very much working with their gifts and abilities to expand them, to attune them, to sharpen them. And it's a very safe place because we don't allow self-promotion in there. We don't allow you to try to sell your products and services to the other people, because they need to come in knowing that they're there to learn and grow, but not get approached or poached, basically, so that they don't feel like, they're either trying to get picked up because somebody wants to date them, or they're trying to get picked up because somebody wants to sell them something. So you're not allowed to go in there for any other alternative agendas other than to work together to grow and develop your psychic medium gifts and abilities, which it becomes really cool because then every 2 weeks when you see each other again, you're able to say, hey, things are going way better. This is what's happening now. And now I have questions on this because you're doing work on each other. Okay. And so for those of you who are going, oh my God, this sounds perfect, because I've been trying to figure out how am I going to practice the stuff that I just learned in the workshop with the 3-day psychic medium development that I had with the Academy, then you know where to go. Also, we will have Academy Awards at the Faith and Inspiration Hypnosis Conference in August, along with recognition and certificates for graduation. So we have a lot of cool stuff going on. So many of you are going to be with us in New York for our hypnosis conference. And I will tell you, you are going to be learning the hypnosis to help your children. So those of you who have been excited to hear about, maybe we should start looking at things differently. Maybe we should start doing readings on what the right thing is for this child, because you might have a parenting style that's working on 1 or 2 of your children, but it's not working on the other child. And I remember when I used to get on the phone with my son's father, because we were raising him as divorced parents and co-parenting. We did a really good job of being co-parents and raising him as co-parents. We didn't do a great job of being married after a while. So I would get on the phone and go, I don't know what's going on and what you did over there this weekend, but I don't believe that it's working. Here's what the doctor said to do. Here's what the school, here's what we're all doing here. Can we all get on the same page here? So that you're using the same kind of language with him that I'm using, and so that we can just get some sense of something. And he would go, Camille, stop telling me what to do with my son. I've already raised 2 sons and they're doing fabulous, and I don't need any advice from you. And I was like, typical ex-husband bullshit behavior. So I then said to him, listen, yeah, the other 2 sons are doing fabulous, and I raised them with you, so don't forget that. And they wouldn't even be in college if it wasn't for me, because I'm the one that sat down and told you they're going to college and helped them get financial aid and helped them get into college. So don't forget my part of it. In fact, they still ask me questions now and come to me, and I have a great relationship with them, even though we're divorced. Don't forget that either. And in the meantime, I said, it isn't working on him. We got to change our game plan. And he said, I think it's working just fine. He's doing just great over at my house. I don't know what you're doing over at your house, and I don't know what they're doing over at school. And I go, it's playtime at your house. It's the weekend. There's no rules. There's no bedtime. He doesn't have to go to bed at a specific time. He doesn't have to wake up at a specific time, and he doesn't have to be dressed, brushed teeth, lunchbox, ready to go, gym shorts, and show up on time for the bus to then get to school on time. There's nothing he has to do. Of course, he's doing fine over there. All you guys do is eat whatever you want to eat. Don't follow the program of eating plan that he's on at the doctor's, and do whatever you want. Play, go ride your bikes, go to the park, maybe go to the amusement park, do whatever fun stuff. You don't have to play a parenting role. You're like the Disney World dad. He goes and has fun and comes home, and then I have to be the parent that says, you can't do this, you have to do this. And I said, could you start being more of that part of the parenting role too? Because if he's grounded at home and then he goes to his second home, your house, and he's not grounded, he's getting the wrong message. So the one day I had to say to him, for those of you who have to co-parent, I said, listen, you can do Monday through Friday and deal with the school system, and I'll do the weekends, and I'll be the play parent if you don't want to support me. So choose which one you want. And I paused and I just looked him dead in the eyes, and he looked at our son and he goes, listen, you're going to start listening to your mother and listening to them at school right now. No more of this. And suddenly he was on board, because he figured out his lifestyle was going to get screwed up, because he'd have to be the one receiving all the emails and all the appointments with the doctors and the teachers, and he wouldn't get to be Playland dad anymore. So that's how I got him on board, because he knew I meant what I said. You're going to be the serious parent, and I'm going to be the play parent. We'll just take turns here. I've already been doing it for, I think at the time that when I had this talk, it was 7 years. I go, I've already been doing it for 7 years. You can do the next 7 years. We'll switch. And he didn't want that. So he decided to support me. So then now he was grounded at dad's house if he was grounded at mom's house. So those of you who have a co-parenting situation, you've got to figure out a way to see if you can get them to cooperate. And I know some of you might be going, I have no idea how I will get him to cooperate with me. Because I remember going to a counselor and going, well, if you two don't get aligned, you're not going to be able to do this. And I'm like, well, we couldn't even figure out how to be married. So how do you think we're going to get aligned? Well, I was being negative because I realized I was just going to give him an ultimatum. And I said, here's your ultimatum. And I did. I said, you're either going to support me or you're going to become the working parent and I'll be the playing parent. And thankfully, since I did it with enough toughness and I was actually willing to do it, I was willing to switch roles because I figured it out. I sat there and calculated the hours and I'm like, we're actually with him the same amount of waking hours. Like the amount of time he's awake over at dad's and over at mom's, even though I have him Monday through Friday and he has them for the weekends, was the same amount. And so I realized it's not like I'm going to lose any hours. I'm just going to, and I knew he wouldn't do the job too. I knew he didn't want to be the working parent and deal with the school and all that stuff. I already knew it. So you have to kind of like sit there and strategic plan what you're going to do with your co-parent. And it might not be the same thing as what I had to do. You got to sit down with God first. Cause I did, I sat down with God and I go, what the heck are we going to do here? And I did enough, getting my journal out and using my gifts and abilities the way I train you in our 3-day workshop to get enough messages and strategic plans to like lay out a plan of how we were going to change some things. I invested time and energy into it. So I say to all of you out there who are either parents or maybe someday going to be a parent or maybe guiding other parents because you have a coaching business and you have clients that have parents, that getting the parents to take the time to sit down with Creator and get laser lucid clear on the next game plan is important. And you do have to reinvent yourself as a parent, like on a fairly regular basis as they have a growth spurt. So as soon as they grow and they're onto your tactics, you got to reinvent the wheel. And so you've got to basically change your MO so that they don't know what to expect from you. And then they're like, whoa, mom didn't do what she used to do before. She's got a whole new MO now. And then you are able to get them back in line. And you might have to talk to your girlfriends or your doctors or whatever, or your life coach like me. I happen to do this professionally now because I love it. It's a passion. My favorite job in life is being a parent. And it's probably because it was the most difficult and challenging, and it's the most fulfilling all at the same time. So most fulfilling, it's a complete labor of love to be a parent, and most challenging, and it has the biggest reward available because love is everything, right? And all you need, I always say, I work for hugs. All I need is a hug in return. I love yous and hugs, and as parents, that's what we work for. We just want to see a big smile on their face, a big twinkle in their eye, and we want to see that they're succeeding. And now as he's older, I don't just work for hugs. Now I work for success. You better be succeeding at being happy and feeling and setting yourself up for a long, successful life, like not just stuff that'll make you happy right now. So sometimes we discuss, well, you think you're happy right now because you are, but you won't be able to be happy for the rest of your life if you don't have a good income source and a good love life. Like you're going to have to set yourself up that you're going to find the one, because you're not going to want to just date multiple people all over the place and have a broken heart here, a broken heart there. So we're going to have to start understanding this whole journey. We're also going to have to understand like what's your divine calling, so you can be working in a place that you feel really aligned and that you love it. And you're going to want to be working on feeling like you're following your purpose, because that's what people are looking for these days. I don't find anybody that's extremely happy with their life unless they feel like their soul aligned with their work, whatever their work is. And so talking about, well, what makes long-term happiness, not just current immediate happiness. because we have to be setting ourselves up for success for long term. So we have to make sure that you're set up that when you're 70 years old, that you're happy with the life that you lived, and that you're still living a happy, healthy, long life, and that you're able to go into 80 and 90 healthy, because they've got ways now to keep us alive a lot longer, and we want to be healthy and happy as long as possible, right? So what kind of things can we talk about? And starting to sit down and work on what are your goals? And of course, they sometimes say, I don't have any goals. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, well, we're going to have to figure out some to start with. Let's start with some goals now that you have, and then we'll revisit it every year. So in September, when school generally starts, or August, basically. So in the summer, we kind of get ready. We get our new school clothes, we get our new notebooks and book bags and stuff, right? So now at the same time, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at our goals. So I recommend you do that. Write down the list of goals, and then write down a few steps underneath each goal of what they can be doing right now in their life. You know, one of the goals might be to have more friends. So then maybe 2 steps underneath their goals of having more friends is for some of them, it might be, well, really looking at like what you're looking for in friendship, and maybe being able to be more communicative, because maybe your child is a little bit more quiet, doesn't really open up. So maybe working on, okay, how can we open up and talk a little bit more so that we can make connections? Or maybe for your child, it's that they dress horrible. They go in, they look like they, you know, they pulled their wrinkled clothes out of the laundry basket, and their shirt is wrinkled and it smells bad, and somehow they made it out of the house with dirty laundry on. And you're like, how did you get out of this house with that on? You mean to tell me you had smelly, dirty, wrinkled clothes on all day today? Insane. Don't you ever do that again. Nobody wants to be friends with someone who smells bad and looks bad, and that's scary to them, because if you don't take care of yourself, then they're wondering how well you're going to take care of anything else around you, the classroom you're in or the friendship you're in. Like, we represent how we're going to take care of others by how we take care of ourselves. So having those conversations with them around maybe 2 things they can work on underneath each of their goals. Okay. And of course, age appropriate as well on what they're working on. And this works really well with adults also. That's what we have to do for ourselves. But when we're parenting, we are their life coaches. And I don't think all parents look at themselves as that, but I have found that the ones that are successful and their kids are doing well, they realize that they have to step into that role of life coach, and that the job doesn't end when they're 18 years old. You're still going to be their sounding board and their life coach, but you'll start pulling, you know, into that place of, what do you think you should do? And then telling them that as you get older, I would like to just be a sounding board. You can share your ideas. I'll listen. If you want any ideas from me, I'll give them to you. I'll always respect your decision, whatever the decision is that you make, because it is your decision and it is your life. So at the end of the day, even if you use me as a sounding board to share with me and I give you some ideas, I'm not going to ostracize you if you didn't decide to take me up on them. But we will discuss it and see how we think the ideas worked or didn't work. Now, for some of our children, they're in a hard space right now. They're not doing well. They need you to bring the hammer down. And sometimes we got to get crafty and creative with how we do that. And sometimes, even though you're doing your divine channel and your psychic medium work and you're working with divine, sometimes we run out of time and we don't even have a 30 minutes or an hour to sit there and work with divine every day, because sometimes they're challenging us daily. You have to surround yourself with a team in that place. I had a team of people that we were doing readings and figuring things out and strategizing during those really hard stages. Not only did I have 2 different doctors that I did it with, and of course I didn't call them readings with them, but that is what they were doing, because I found some high quality ones. I also had some of my friends too. So that's why talking about this community that we're creating, where you're going to be able to come in for a 1-year journey and meet once a week, pretty much every other week. And sometimes we're going to create a schedule that you have it in writing and you know what days you're coming in, where you can work with each other to get the answers. And then if you're taking the Divine Channel NLP Life Coaching Level 1, that's a 6-month journey. It's about a 5-month, but by the time you get all your homework handed in, you get an extra month to hand in everything to get your certification. So inside of that 5 months, you're working with each other too. So you're able to get the NLP, the deep trauma release. You're learning how it works. You're going to learn how to heal yourself with it. You're going to get the healing you needed for yourself while you're in that vortex. Then you're going to be able to go and do it for your family, your children. And I have done NLP and hypnosis sessions for my son, and they have worked incredibly well. And I have asked him, like when he was getting frustrated or worried about something, I would say, can we do an NLP and a hypnosis session? And he was like, okay, I think that I'm willing to try anything at this point. Okay, great. So sat down and we did a full client session, and I did a full program with him in order to get him ready for, because he really wanted to get into law school. He wanted to do well on the LSAT exams. He was afraid he wasn't going to do well, the whole 9 yards. Of course, you know, he did. But we went through a whole program to help him get there. And had I not had all the training, I wouldn't have been able to be that life coaching parent to the level I've been able to be at. So when I went and got certified and I invested my time and energy and my money, and it does cost a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money, but it is worth it because I had all the tools I needed in order to help myself get out of deep depression and anxiety that I was completely debilitated and disabled by. I couldn't even show up for my shows. So I was able to do that. And you're going to want that training so you can help yourself and help your children. Because once you have these skills, now you can be an incredible parent. So I highly recommend you use all this training that you're getting for helping your children. And sometimes you got to maybe hit them at the right time. They might not be open to it right away. They might go, oh, I don't know what that is. But when they're upset and they're really looking for answers, then say, is there any way I can help you with some of the stuff I've been learning? And then usually they'll say, okay, fine, I'll try it. So think about timing it out as to when you offer to help them. All right. So I am going to say that I do not apologize that we went over on the channel coming in because I know that's what was supposed to happen. So I want to thank you for showing up for the show today. Our next show is going to be on depression release. And that is actually going to be next week, I believe. If I'm not correct. Yes. So tune in next week, April 4th, and we will be doing our depression release show at New York's Divine Channel. You can have it all. And stay tuned. Go ahead and watch our previous episodes in the same link that you watched this live show in, and have a wonderful week. I love you guys all.